Hello. Hi. Alrighty. Hi, big guy. Let's see who's there. Alright. Good evening, everybody. Hello from Mr. Alakai and myself. Hope everyone's doing well. Let's see. Alright, Marsha Sugamelli. Good evening to the Sugamellis and the Mathis. There's Tracy France, Stephanie Tenelant. Hello to you. Who else? Alrighty, we've got Lanny White. And yep, as you can see, I got little Mr. Alakaya. You are a superstar. Everyone wants to see you, not me. Everyone wants to see you, not me. So grab yourselves a glass. We're talking about the LVA Viognier. Let me adjust that. Let me see. There we go. There's a little guy. Obviously, at the end of the day, we'll say hello to him again. You might as well jump in here, lady, and say hi very quickly to everybody. Say hi. Alrighty. Okay. What do you reckon? Should we try some Viognier tonight?
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. All right. So smooches all around. Mwah. Let's give him off to Mom. Let's say hi to some other folks there. You got him?
Yep.
All right. Underneath
Have
there.
a good day.
Have a good tasting, right? You got him? All righty.
Bye.
All right. Let's see who else is there. We have... there's Lanny White, as we said. Hello to you and Suzanne. We got Trish Seinwell, Susan Glenn, Kathy Clifton, Kevin Norfleet out in PA. Hope you're doing well. Janice Bright, great way to start. Couldn't agree more. Everyone says, what's the best thing you've ever made? And honestly, that's some of them. There's Alison Turkle. Who else do we have? We have Mark Scharfenmeyer, OHIO, Jeff Thorpe from Prince William County. Good evening. Go blue to you. Well, we love you nonetheless, though, but thank God, Big Ten season has been cancelled for you, right? Tony Robinson, good evening. Happy Tuesday. There's Valerie. Hard to log on, but hello. Virginia Wine Time to Paul and Warren, Lynn Pantos, Susan Glenn is there, Laura Purdy, David Maddox. We have some incredible folks, and we have some incredible wines. Andrea Peters, Linda Sims, Kathy Clifton, as we've said. There's Dennis Sugamelli. We have the Viognier and the Trevelyan Open. There's Sarah Elizabeth Cron, our wonderful wine club manager. Sarah, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Chris Zitzman, wait, go blue. Hell no. We love everybody, Chris, but when it comes to Big Ten football, it's crimson and grey. So there's Beth Smith, wondering where you were. Matthew Fitzsimmons, John Franklin. Your Viognier may be my favorite wine you produce. We appreciate that. If you haven't, I'm really, really excited. There's Erica Johansson. Let's give it another minute or two. We are talking about the 2018 LVA Viognier. And what's better than one bottle of Viognier? Two bottles. So I've got the 19 and the 18. And we're going to talk to you about Viognier, the Le Vendange, the name behind the label, how you can get it. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about wine for an hour. We're going to answer your questions. Those that we don't get to, we're going to get in the next day or two. I have my beautiful wife sitting right next to me, as always, with Alakai, who for the time being is quiet and cooperative. But good evening. Let's see who else is there. We've got quite a few people on this evening. If I haven't said hello to you and I've missed you, hello. Hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. There's Love Wine Dog. You got John France from Tracy and Paul. Good evening to you. So, as always, we are talking about our Viognier, and very specifically our Le Vendange Viognier. So if you've got it, what I would suggest is that it's chilled. And I think, again, there's always that temperature sort of disparity between drinking and sort of analyzing. So if you're just here to drink and listen, 38 to 45 degrees is a perfect serving temperature. For me, a little bit warmer than that because, we want to enjoy the wine. And but at the other end, we want to learn about the wine. We want to learn about how it's developing. Is it today as we thought it might be? What sort of characteristics are we getting from Viognier that's now been in the bottle for 1 year? From a vintage that quite honestly was pretty crappy. You know, so for me, I am serving this wine a touch warmer, so probably in the mid 50s, mid to low 50s, 52 to 55, somewhere there. And as always, I always want to use a frame of reference. So 19, incredible vintage. So the Lba Dna from 2019. No other difference other than I would like to see the difference. How's the wine evolving? What are the characteristics from the wine that we can extrapolate from the harvest? And yeah, so pour yourself a glass. For me, again, tall, thin glasses. You know, it's just a personal preference. You know, if you want a big bowl that oxidizes and aerates the wine a little bit more, that's fine. If you want a big sort of Bordeaux glass, but for me, sort of thin and narrow is the way to go. So the fun is pouring. Look at that color. It is beautifully golden, sun-kissed yellow, and that's the 2018. 2019, perhaps just a touch lighter. You know, I would say that's probably just because of the age. So, hey, if you guys are ready, I'm ready. I'm excited about this wine. It's really one of my favorites. So let's jump into it, all right? So welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've had the most incredible sort of week and weekend. What beautiful weather we're having in Virginia right now. So the question is, first and foremost, we are not harvesting yet. There is grapes being picked around the state. Most of that is for sparkling wine production. Keswick will probably start picking in the next sort of 10 to 14 days. We're a little bit behind, and that is probably just because of the frost. And what we have out there, if we do have fruit, it's not really primary clusters, it's secondary clusters, which are a little bit behind. So when we have a frost event like we did in 2019, the harvest starts just a little bit later. We're normally picking in the last week of August, you know, around the 28th, 9th, 30th. That is pretty normal. More than likely this year we'll start around sort of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th of September. So that's where it is. So God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've had a wonderful thing. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're doing well. But let's jump into it. Let's take an hour and just forget about the craziness of the world. Let's drink some wine, ask some questions, talk about what is to our family a very, very iconic and lovely wine. There is pressure when we make this wine, because what I want to do is really talk about where the label comes from, explain the label if you don't know. So we always talk about Lba Dna. So let me pull up the label if I may. There it is. What is in the label? And if you don't know, the label is a tribute to Al Schonberg, who is our owner. He's the eldest of 5, youngest being Geneviève. So you can see at the top of the label it says homage, tribute, in honor of Geneviève. Okay, Lba Dna means the wind of angels, and vendange is the French word for harvest. So at the top you see there's a fleur de lis. Their mother was French. A lovely lady, beautiful kind of woman, you know, beautiful soul, beautiful person. So the mother was French, so homage to the French heritage. At the bottom of the portrait it says do no harm. Geneviève was a doctor, so that is Latin for do no harm. In the portrait itself there's 2 swans. Her and her husband Mark used to have swans on their necklaces, and if you drive into our property you've noticed we have a pair of white swans and a pair of black swans. And that is, again, to play into the label and signify, because swans mate for life. So it was very symbolic to them. The caduceus, which is the snake and the cross, that is the brooch and the hair. She had dogs. She loved dogs. She had 3 of them. So there's 2, as you can quite easily see, to the left and the right of the portrait. But if you look inside, just to the right of her, about mid-length, there's a face of a Labrador hidden in there as well. It's a little bit difficult to see, but there's the ode to the fact that she loved the dogs. The label was actually designed by my sister-in-law, Chris, Al's eldest daughter, and yeah, it is family. So who was Jen? There she is. You know, no longer with us, but with us in spirit. There's Al, and as I said, Jen was just an incredible human being. Obviously, I came into this family in 2002. I met her. She passed, unfortunately, soon after. But, you know, one of those people you meet for the first time and you remember. A smile as bright as the sun. A spirit that was so positive and so beautiful. So when you are making a wine that is a reflection of Jen's personality, her spirit as a human being, it's tough. because we want to embody in a bottle everything about her, right? So that's the story, So it is a very iconic, heartfelt, emotional tribute to our sister Geneviève, and that is our Lba Dna Viognier. All right. So when you make a second label, we always talk about when, everyone knows the Keswick label. Everyone knows the house that was 1911 and is built on. When you come out with a secondary label, which doesn't suggest reserve or the house, the first notion everyone says is, well, that's obviously just a different quality. So the first thing I want to say is that this Viognier is no less a higher quality wine than the Viognier, the Reserve, and the Signature Series. We put as much work into growing and making this wine as we do all our other labels. Just because it's Lba Dna doesn't mean it's of a lesser quality. And quite frankly, in a lot of ways, I think there is better value to price point for this wine as well. So the 2018, as we all know, was a tough vintage. A tough vintage because Viognier requires a growing season that allows you to ripen Viognier. All right, so 2018 just didn't do that for us. 2018 was a shorter growing season. We had a lot of rain. We were picking fruit that, quite honestly, was underripe physiologically and phenolically. And we had to work really, 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 really hard, because when you talk about Viognier, you think tropical, you talk flowery, you talk perfumey, you walk into a flower shop. The old saying is stop and smell the roses. It's really stop and smell the Viognier, because Viognier is so odoriferous and aromatic and beautiful. And where that really comes from is a growing season where the fruit is ripe. Now, Viognier is a tough grape to cultivate. Where is it from? It's originally thought to be from Dalmatia, present-day Croatia, brought to France by the Romans. I think it was Probus, but it's very famous in the Condrieu, in the northern Rhone and Châteauguay. And about 30, 40, 50 years ago, there was not a lot of Viognier planted in the world. I think there was like 35 hectares. A hectare is 2.6 acres, so you're looking at around 100 odd acres. Very, very small. Viognier has expanded to other parts of the world. You can find it in California and South Africa, Australia. You can find it in the Hawke's Bay region of New Zealand. And then obviously it's found a home in Virginia. Now in 2011, people thought this really is and should be the state grape of Virginia. It really isn't anymore. It is a varietal that can potentially do well in Virginia, but it is not Virginia's state grape. So there's something that we always find out. What is the state grape of Virginia? We don't really have one. Many, many years ago, people thought that Viognier could be that grape, but it really isn't. Why is that? Hard to tell, because I think Virginia makes some of the best expressions and examples of Viognier in the world. Now, it is very site-specific. It is difficult to grow. A couple of reasons why. Number one, it's an early budding varietal. So early budding is fine. That's not a problem. The earlier the budding, the longer the growing season potentially. But if you get frost, as we did this year, Viognier is very, very, very susceptible to frost damage. And unfortunately, Keswick has 16 acres of Viognier. It's actually our largest planted varietal on our estate. And we got pretty hammered because we do not have elevation. We've got incredible soils. We've got incredible terroir. But what we don't have is elevation. So when we have an early bud break, as we did this year in March, normal bud breaks around the second week of April, around the 9th, 10th is pretty common. When you had an early bud break, very susceptible to frost. And because we had multiple frost events, but the big one was sort of the Mother's Day, which I think was May 13th or 14th, we got down to 26 degrees. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of Viognier. The other thing is it's not a prolific producer in terms of tonnages. So as a grape grower versus a wine grower, grape growers, their livelihood is growing grapes and selling them to someone, right? Most grapes are actually bought by the ton. The price is market determined, or if it's an incredible site, that price could be somewhat higher. But say we're talking about $2,500 a ton, right? You're a grape grower, your livelihood is on producing fruit. The more tonnage per acre, the more sort of income you get. So if I were a grape grower and I'm selling it to Keswick, and Keswick has a contract, I'm going, we want to get 5, 6, 7 tons an acre. Obviously, that's money in the pocket. The winery comes back and says, you know what, we don't want that. The quality is at 2, 3 tons an acre. But the thing about Viognier, it's not a prolific producer anyway. We get anywhere from sort of 1 to 2 tons per acre. That's actually really, really low. For us, that's not a bad thing because we are wine growers. Our intention is to produce the quality of the fruit that allows us to make these wines that you enjoy. You know, that is our intention. It's really not in how much fruit we can produce. It's how much fruit we can produce of a quality that allows us to make incredible wines. So again, we are not grape growers, we are wine growers. That's a very, very, very important distinction. But here's the other thing. This is me personally. When you think of Virginia Viognier, what do you think? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? You know, is it dry? Is it sweet? Is it apricots, pineapples, and tropicals? Is it sort of melon, pear, green apple? Is it aged in oak? Is it creamy and rich and luscious and textural? Is it tank fermented, where it's sort of bright and citrusy? Should it be used in a dessert wine application? Should it be off dry or should it be dry? The thing about Viognier for me is that there are so many different expressions of this grape. It makes it hard to sort of pigeonhole what it exactly is in Virginia, right? So every winery has their own unique expression of Viognier. So a couple of things I would say. Firstly, you know, to get the sort of the tropical and the hedonistic and the luscious and the sort of the floral aromas, you really need development. You need flavor development, you need sugar development. But the thing about Viognier is it's such a low acid producing grape. And we've spoken a lot about how, for me, acid is one of the most important components of wine. It really cuts through the sort of the sweetness and the textural components. Without enough acid, the wines are just flabby. They're rich and they're unctuous, but they're just, you know, they're boring. You know, they're not food friendly, they're not age worthy, and Viognier suffers from a lack of acidity. But if you pick it early, the conservation of acidity, what you're doing is you're not getting the flavor development. So how the hell do you make a wine that is vibrant but yet tropical? Because when you have a lot of sugar in a grape, say you pick it at 24, 25, 25 and a half bricks, what that means is if you're going to make a dry wine, you're going to have 14, 15, 16% alcohol. Nothing worse than having a beautifully aromatic and warm and floral kind of Viognier, but it's hot on the palate. You know, alcohol could be a killer. So what then do? You kind of arrest the fermentation, you stop it at that 13 and a half, but then you have residual sugar in the wine. So it is a very, very difficult grape to, number one, to grow, to cultivate, to get ripe, to make the style of wine that people love, because I think when you talk about Viognier to a consumer, it's all about apricots and pineapple, and it's tropical, you know, fruit-driven kind of wines. And as a grape grower, I find that really hard to do without sacrificing the one thing that we've been focusing on in the last couple of years, and that sort of brightness and freshness and vivacity and tension in the wine. We need acidity. And why does Virginia Viognier not have acidity? It's because our evening temperatures and our growing season is so hot and humid. We don't get a lot of acid, and the longer we allow the vines to ripen the grapes to ripen on the vine, we're giving up. We're losing that natural acid, which is tartaric and malic, right? So we can add acid back into a juice, but it just doesn't taste the same. So, all right, so let's talk Viognier, because we make quite a few. We have in the past. We do the Lba Dna, the Viognier Reserve, the Signature Series. We used to co-ferment it with Syrah when we grew Syrah, and it has actually made some of our dessert wines of past. So what we've done in the last couple of years, I don't know if you've noticed, we actually haven't made a Signature Series or a Reserve. This year and last year, we've just done the Lba Dna and we've just done the Viognier. All right, and that's just to kind of condense, make more of what we think are really incredible value and quality based wines. All right, so the Viognier comes from the front of the property on the very, very typical clay soils that we have in the front of the house. Now, when we move to the back and the side of the property, those soils turn more sort of schist and shale, and that's where our really incredible fruit comes from. Because again, remember, we're talking about terroir, which very simply means that what you smell and taste in a glass of wine should be a representation of where the grape grows, how the grape grows, the elevation, the row orientation, the clone, the rootstock, the planting density, obviously how you manage it. Because those are the only things that make us unique. Again, I want to point this out, is that every winery or vineyard has access to a winemaker, a vineyard manager, barrels, oaks, additives, yeast, enzymes. What is it that makes a wine unique? What is it about a wine that makes it different from its neighbor? It's the soil, it's the vineyard, it's the micro and the mesoclimate. And that's what we really want to amplify in a glass. So we've thought that, you know what, in front of the house, you know, the clay holds a little bit more water, the vines are a little bit more sort of vigorous, you know, the berries are a little bit bigger, there's concentration, there's flavor, there's really sort of beautiful aromatics, but it's just a little bit subdued compared to the block on the side, and that's because it's planted in soils that evacuate water. The vines are a little bit more stressed, they're not as vegetative, they don't produce as much fruit, but what they do, the berries are smaller. We're getting about 140 gallons a ton. In the front we get about 155. That slight dilution effect really impacts the wine. All right, so let's delve into the wine specifically, and again, I'm going to be talking about two wines. First thing you notice is one is a screw cap, back to front. One is a screw cap, and that's our 2019 that was bottled under screw cap, and the 18 which was bottled under a technical cork, which is a Dion. You know, we moved to screw caps not because we wanted to trick you or do something silly. I think screw caps are wonderful closures. You know, they protect the wine. You know, but you gotta break down sort of the psychological and the philosophical kind of, well, that's just a crappy wine if it's based on the screw cap. Not so, right? Cork can impact a wine negatively through something called 2,4,6-trichloroanisole, or TCA. It makes the wine corked, right? So screw caps are not going to do that. The other thing is, if you don't have one of these, you can still get access to your wine. You don't have to put your wine in a shoe and bang it against the wall. If you've ever seen that YouTube video, if you really need to get a cork out of a bottle, that's how you do it. Screw cap, done. Protects the wine. The other thing is, the Lba Dna Viognier is not made for kind of bottle aging. We don't sit and say you have to age this for a year or two before it's drinkable. The Lba Dna Viognier is immediately accessible. It's enjoyable. It's bright. Will it last 1, 2, 3, 4 years in the bottle? Absolutely. Will the wine change? Sure. Will it change in a way that you think is positive? We don't know. It depends on what you think about wine. Will the wine at that point be undrinkable? No, it won't. But Viognier, in terms of generalization, really is best drunk, in my opinion, in 1 to 3 years. There are exceptions to the rule. I actually opened up a 2002 Viognier, the first vintage that we made at Keswick with our staff, and it was incredible. Now, once we opened it up, the wine fell apart pretty quickly, but it was vibrant, it was fruit forward, it was varietally correct. It was incredible. Would I tell you to age a wine for 17 years? Hell no. Because our intention really is to make sure that when you drink the wine, whether it's day one, month one, year one, the experience, the enjoyment of drinking the wine is good. We never want you to drink a wine and toss it down the sink and say it's beyond repair, right? Okay, so how do we make this? All the Lba Dna Viogniers are machine harvested. We actually have a Gregoire G3, which is a toe behind harvester, and we pick the fruit as cool as possible, so early morning or late evening. We try and avoid the sun, because as those berries go into the aluminium or aluminum bins, and the berries actually exposed, the juice comes out, it's warm, it's exposed to oxygen, things start growing, right? So we try and pick as early in the morning as possible or late in the evening where it's a little bit cooler. That fruit then gets transferred straight to the press, and the one thing about Viognier that we do, we don't press heavily. We don't extract all the juice out of the ton. In other words, if we could get 130, 140 gallons a ton, maybe we were pulling 100, maybe we were pulling 105, right? We're looking at the juice, we're tasting the juice, we're looking at the sugars, obviously, we're looking at the pH, we're looking at the TA, all the chemistry, but as we press, the juice changes. You know, it becomes more phenolic because you're extracting the characteristics out of the skin. You might get some bitterness. You might get sort of characteristics that make the wine dull. So we're only using around 68 to 78% of the juice as well. Sort of the free run, and the free run is the juice that really comes out from the fruit sitting on top of each other. You tumble the press and the juice starts coming out. That's free run. And then the light to mid press. The heavy press stuff goes into other applications. We use it in blending components with the Trevelyan, which makes a phenomenal wine. But in terms of Viognier, you want that purity of fruit. You want that sort of typical characteristics, but you certainly don't want that bitter, phenolic, almost like an IPA beer on the character. So we taste, we test. We press very, very gently. That juice gets run into tank, and then once we feel that we're sacrificing quality, we cut it off, and that juice then gets sulfured. And that's to prevent any oxidation or any sort of microbial spoilage, and then we settle it. And we settle it with either enzymes that we add, pectolytic enzymes, and an enzyme is a catalyst. It just speeds up a reaction. or we cold settle it. We keep the juice in the 35 to 40 degree range, and the solids actually settle to the bottom of the tank. And we're looking for a certain clarity measured in what we call NTUs, or nephol turbidity units. Once we reach that clarity, we draw that clean juice off the solids, and then we pitch the yeast. Now, the yeasts we select are based on certain parameters, right? Certainly, we want to make sure that the wine is reflective. We don't want to make a Viognier that tastes like a Sauvignon Blanc or a Chardonnay, right? We really want a yeast that expresses those sort of terpenes, which are the characteristics that you get out of a wine. Those floral sort of tones. We want you to make sure that you go, yep, that's Viognier. We use yeast that are low nitrogen requirements, that can ferment all the way to dryness, because we certainly don't want the wines sticking, or stuck. And yeah, the fermentation is in tank. It takes place over 28 to 35 days at mid to high 50s, so it's on the cooler side. And then once the yeast is dead, there's no more sugar to consume. All that yeast settles to the bottom of the tank, and we wait sort of 3 to 7 days before we draw the wine off that dead yeast. We stir the tank up, we give it 1 to 2 days of settling. That's all the gross lees that settles at the bottom. The wine still kind of ages on microscopic or fine lees, goes into tank, and then we sulfur the wine up. Why do we sulfur the wine up? Obviously to protect it, but we also want to inhibit the secondary fermentation. What I mean by that is primary fermentation is sucrose, glucose, and fructose turning into ethyl alcohol. Secondary fermentation is malic acid turning into lactic acid through lactic acid bacteria. And again, it's about conservation of acidity. If we're going to pick green and pick on acidity, why as winemakers would we take the malic acid, which is that green apple acid, it's very vibrant and crisp and clean, why would we turn it into a milk acid, right? So the intention of this wine is the core is the acidity and the brightness, because this wine never matures in oak. It's tank fermented, tank matured, it's fined, it's stabilized, and it's bottled from tank. And that's really it. So let's dive into it, if you don't mind. So if you have the 18, there it is. Is there a color difference? Yeah, you bet. You can see this is the 18, a little bit more sort of golden yellow. It has that, I would say, sort of a sun-kissed kind of color. The 19, a little bit more lighter, a little bit more on the straw color. So when you think of Viognier, obviously, we taste number one with our eyes. So you can see there's clarity, there's no sort of crystals, there's no flocculation, there's no gas, there's no sediment in the wine. So that's great. So again, time to give the wine a sniffy sniff. And what I love about Viognier is sort of the aromatic potential. So cheers. So again, we're swirling the wine, we're volatilizing esters. Esters are those odoriferous compounds. Volatility might be means, by definition, the ability to vaporize. So give it a swirl and get your nose in there. And again, God, even from a vintage that is regarded as a weak vintage, this Viognier just sings aromatically. I mean, it's got beautiful floral, mango, mango skin rind that really comes out. I don't get a lot of the apricot, to be honest. I get a little bit more sort of tropical fruits. I get a little bit sort of pineapple. I get papaya, which I love. Is one of my favorite fruits. My grandfather used to grow papaya. I love papaya. Mango, white flower, like lilies almost. It's just really fresh. It's vibrant. It's quite amplified. It's not muted. It's not dull. It's not like flavored water where you really have to think for it. It actually is really, really beautifully aromatic. And I would say the aromas are sort of medium plus. They might not be as intense as the 19, and that's quite okay. That's just due to the vintage. But it's beautifully expressive. And I think there's no doubt that if you tasted this blind, you would say it's Viognier. So makes you want to drink it, makes you want to dive into it. And that's what the nose does. It's such an acute sense. It's really sort of getting your palate going. I got to shove this in my mouth. So cheers to your health. God bless you. Hope you're all safe. So first thing we're going to do is taste the wine, rinse it around and swallow it very quickly, and then take a second sip. And that's just to wash what you've had. You might have had a cup of coffee, you might have had a beer, you might have had another wine. So rinse, get rid of it, go in. Nice big swill, rinse it around, see where it sits in the palate. Okay, been a while since I've tried this wine, and I'm super excited. This was actually a Governor's Cup winning wine. It was only 6 gold medals from 2018 vintage. This was one. Very proud. And again, kudos to my team and the Vineyard guys and the girls. And all the credit goes there, to be honest with you. But the first thing you notice is it's really got a lovely entry. It's really fruit forward. It's bright. It's got the acidity. You'll notice that it finishes a little bit sweeter. We do have some RS in the wine. You know, it's around 0.65% or 6.5 grams per liter. Doesn't make it a sweet wine. Most people can pick up sugar from about 0.5% upwards. And what that does, you know, it really gives this nice balance because the acidity is quite high. And that's, again, because 18 was such a rough vintage. The fruit was actually picked not purposefully green, but when we got it, it was slightly on the greener side as well, which really makes me kind of really love the fact that this is really floral and very expressive. So let's just double check. I mean, that's just the first impression, right? The first impression is great. Makes you want to go back. It should make you want to go back as well. So jump right on it. Yeah, so beautiful entry. It's very luscious. It's very juicy. It's like ripe mangoes when you bite into it and that juice kind of comes down your mouth. It's got beautiful acidity. It's not sort of syrupy and cloying. You know, some Viogniers can be a little texture and a little rich and unctuous, but it doesn't quite have the acidity. I find a lot of Viogniers to be a little bit flabby. So the acid is really lovely, but it's got nice weight. It's actually got nice length, meaning that once you've swallowed the wine still persists. It doesn't just disappear and make you go, well, where did that go? You know, it's not like a cliff. It's got great entry and then it just falls off. Really excited about this wine. It's actually quite complex. And I think, again, that is a product of an incredible vineyard. And, you know, our vineyard, I've always said, when we get wet years, our vineyard can sort of take a little bit more water than some else as well. So super pumped about this wine. Would I age it much longer? I mean, I'm not sort of getting oxidative notes. I'm not getting the Lba Dna character, which is the nuts or the bruised apple. I'm not getting any sort of volatile, so VA, which is vinegar, or ethyl acetate, which is nail polish remover. You know, it's quite expressive. You would think this is a really decent, good vintage. This might be a 13 or a 15, to be honest with you. You know, the sweetness is lovely. So as food pairings go, questions are, what would you pair it with? Certainly you don't want to go with foods that are really sweet, because you're just going to sort of inherently, you know, kind of diminish the wine. Nor would you go with foods that are really sour. I love sort of chicken, you know, that sort of thing. Now, obviously, don't eat chicken, but chicken goes really well with this. You know, turkey, ham, I would say that sort of spectrum there as well. Sauces would be difficult. Spicy foods. I actually love drinking the Le Vendange Viognier with Thai food. Green Thai chili, you know, soups or curries. I think it's a beautiful wine to have with spicy foods, because the touch of sweetness in the wine sort of nullifies the heat in the food. I think this is a beautifully food-friendly wine, but at the end of the day, the intention is to create a wine that you can go on the deck and just sit with and enjoy. I think you will enjoy this 2018. But let's have a look. I mean, 18, it is what it is, a rough vintage. But let's sort of compare it to the 19. Same block, same sort of parameters, same philosophy in terms of when we pick it, the conservation of acidity, machine harvested, tank fermented, tank mature. And again, you're really, the only difference is 19 was a phenomenal vintage, right? You know, so aromatically, the wines are actually quite similar, which is great, which is really great. It means, you know, that the vineyard and the character of the vineyard, which I think is a wonderful vineyard, is shining through the wine. The one difference about the 19, I would say, is that we made the 19 dry. We actually reduced the sugar even more. So there is no perceptible residual sugar on the 2019 Viognier. So again, other than the color, it's clear, there's clarity, there's no flocculation, there's no sediment, there's no gas. It's a younger wine. It's only been in the bottle for a month or two. The acid is really big. Probably a little bit more so than the 18. I would say probably the perception of acidity. I think if you look at the numbers, the acidity is actually a little bit higher in the 18 because of the RS. In the 18, the acid is maybe not as front and center. Really love the 19. It's very, very bright. A little bit more sort of stone fruit and citrus. A little bit more of that lemon character that comes through, which is lovely. I love kind of slightly sour stuff. You know, there's beautiful pineapple, yellow skin kind of fruit. Very, very tropical, very fruit forward. But yeah, definitely the acid in the 19 is perceptibly just a notch up. All right, so two beautiful, beautiful wines. And again, you know, not to take anything away from the production team in the cellar, but all credit to the vineyard team, you know, because again, the expression of a wine, number one, obviously comes from the vineyard, but it's that quality of the fruit on your crush pad that really allows you to kind of go in a direction. So yeah, that's the label, that's the wine. It's iconic, it's very dear to our hearts, and I hope you love it. So I haven't been looking at all the comments. I hope there are some. I hope there are some questions. So while my wife is next to me, let me see if there's a couple of questions that we can answer. Then I want to tell you how you can get this wine, how you can even perhaps get the 19. Let me see if I can get Al on the line and see if we can give you a great deal where you can get both the bundles. So hey, sweethearts, are there any sort of questions from our wonderful, wonderful folks?
So Chris Sitzman has the 2014 LVA Pinot Gris, and he was wondering if that's good to drink tonight. Sounds like he might have already opened it.
There is a question from Chris Sitzman, who has a 2014 Pinot Gris under the Lba Dna label, and the question is it good to drink? I would say I would hope so. You know, you're talking 5 years for a Pinot Gris. I don't know, Chris. What I would do is open it, try it, let me know how you think. Can I tell you it's good to drink? I don't. It's been forever since I've had that wine. I perhaps don't even have that wine in my personal collection. I would hope that.
Beautiful.
What does he say?
It's freaking beautiful.
It's freaking beautiful. My God, apparently we need to age our Viogniers and our Lba Dna wines for 4 to 5 years. So I'm excited to hear that. I always think personally that these wines, from a personal point of view, I think these wines can do with some time. You know, I think they become so expressive and they come into their own with some time. Would I have recommended aging a 2014 Pinot Gris as long as Chris did? Probably not, but I'm super pumped, stoked, really, that it is freaking beautiful. So thank you for that, and I'm not sure why you have a 2014 Pinot Gris, but I'm glad you did, especially if it's tasting as wonderful as it is. So
another question about other LVA wines. Suzanne Barber thinks she remembers an LVA Syrah.
Ooh. The question from Suzanne Barber is, have we made a Lba Dna Syrah? I'm not sure. I think the Reeves Red many years ago was a Syrah. I think we've done one. Now we're talking probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, perhaps. You know, I would double check, but I think we have made a Syrah. I think it was a once off. We have pulled the Syrah out of the ground. Unfortunately, it's my favorite varietal in the whole wide world. It was just never making wines that would really get us excited. Our vineyard, our climate, you know, in 2010 we made an incredible Syrah. Subsequent years, we were never quite there, and unfortunately we pulled it out. So I think we've made one Lba Dna or Reeves Red. Reeves Red, by the way, a lot of people say, where's that name come from? It's from the Reeves family. Sir Berkeley Reeves was the gentleman that built the house, the manor house on the property in 1911. So that's the explanation of that. So if you have one, you know, Suzanne, drink it, tell me how it is. But I think we've done one vintage. I don't remember the vintage, but I do remember making one Syrah-based wine from the under the Reeves Red label.
Okay, she says it was a long time ago. That's the wine that got her hooked on Keswick.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. It's the wine that got Suzanne hooked on Keswick. Well, I hope if the Reeves Red got you hooked on Keswick, you are just pumped about, you know, the Cab Francs, the Merlots, the PVs, and the Cab Savs that come off the property. So thank you so much, Suzanne. It's, oh, wow, what a blast from the past. A Reeves Red Syrah. It's been a while since I've heard that one.
And Alison Turkle asked, do Croatians still make Viognier?
Question is, do they make Viognier in Croatia? And the honest answer is I don't know. I know very little about Croatian wines. I can certainly find out for you, Alison, and get back to you. But I don't know. I can't even take a guess on that wine. I know very little about Croatian wines. I probably can't remember even having a Croatian wine. So do they make Viognier? The honest answer is I just don't know.
And Erica Johansson asked, did you lose just the Viognier crop for this year, or did the vines get damaged? Will it affect next year?
Yeah, so Erica Johansson, fantastic question. So the question is, with the frost and us losing if not all of our Viognier, does that mean we've lost all 16 acres? And the answer is no. What we do is we spray the vines, we look after the vines, we make sure they're healthy, we prune them, and we should, if all goes well, get a full crop the following year. And that's the great thing about vines, is that we're down, we got knocked out, we get back up, we'll come back stronger, we'll learn from it, and in 2021, God willing, if Mother Nature cooperates a little bit, we will have 16 acres that produce fruit, hopefully incredible fruit, and we will continue to make wine. You can get some vine damage from winter and trunk and cane damage, but in terms of frost, the vines are luscious, they're producing, they're healthy, they're happy, there's no fruit, but next year we cut that back, and fruit always grows on 1 year wood and 1 year shoots, so we cut it back to a certain amount of buds, and next year we're back to normal, if all goes well, producing the typical harvest that we get from our Viognier on our property. So no, we haven't lost the vines, we've just lost the potential of fruit for this year, and we'll back at it next year and we'll go to it. So take this one on the chin, get back stronger, come back more resilient, and yeah.
And then Chris Sitzman asked, if there's such a wide variability in the Dna, why is it the variety in Virginia?
So Chris asks, if there's a variability in terms of viticulture and the growing it, why is it the varietal in Viognier? Chris, I would answer it this way.
And Cindy remembered the Reeves Red was 2011.
2011, by the way, Cindy says was the Reeves Red Syrah. Chris, I would say Viognier is no longer the grape in Virginia. I think it makes beautifully expressive grapes, but I think if you look at whites, I would say perhaps Albarino, but certainly the grape that a lot of people have been really excited about is Petit Manseng. I think probably because of the variability and the fact that I think less than 30% of wineries actually grow Viognier, because it is, if you think of the commercialism and sort of the investment it takes to grow grapes and plant grapes, the ROI with Viognier is very, very tough. I think the fact that it's not a high acid grape, it sort of loses a little bit of fervor and favor with sommeliers. You're not finding a lot of Viogniers. People are tending to go towards brighter, more acidic-driven wines. I think Albarino gives that in bucket loads. Petit Manseng is a varietal that produces a lot of sugar and incredibly high acid. I think Sauvignon Blanc is a phenomenal varietal if you have the site. But I don't think Viognier has been the it grape for a couple of years. Honestly, and this is me sort of putting my neck out there, I think Chardonnay is more of an it grape in Virginia than Viognier, and that's a tough thing to say, because when you go Chardonnay, everyone's like, oh god, Chardonnay, anything but Chardonnay. Chardonnay is the most planted varietal in Virginia, whites, and I think it's one of the most terroir-driven varietals that we make, and I think Virginia makes incredible Chardonnays, and I'm more excited about Chardonnay than I am the Viognier. It's not to say Viognier doesn't make incredible wines, it really is, but is it is it the grape that people are super excited about producing and getting in the glass? Probably not. I think Keswick has an incredible vineyard and has produced some really lovely, beautiful sort of Viogniers. Is it the grape? I think from a purely honest, transparent point of view, I'd say perhaps it was many years ago. But in the last couple, it really has lost a little bit of its luster. But what happens is, what's down comes up, in those trends. I think Viognier will come back, and I think we can get some of the customers' attention, especially with these types of wines where they're bright and fruit forward and lovely and they have that acidity, and they're not these really rich and overdone vanilla, flabby kind of wines. I think Viognier will come back, but it's going to take us as growers and winemakers to really make the kind of wines that get you excited about it as a consumer. So I hope that answered your question. Don't give up on Viognier, but as far as the it grape, I think it was, and it will come back, but right now I would say it's probably not. Cool.
And Tom Tenneland is comparing the 2018 and 2019. Says he gets some butter on the 18, but not on the 19. Is there a different process in how they were made that would explain that?
Okay, so when you... Now I have to really think about my chemistry. So when you're thinking of butter, you're talking about a something called diacetyl, which is also known as butane dione, I believe it is. It's got 4 carbons and then 2 carbonyl groups with 2 oxygen molecules, butane dione. And that's essentially the butter characteristic. So it's generally a product of when the wine goes through secondary fermentation, which the wines did not. It perhaps did on its own, but it's certainly not intentional. We didn't do a lot of lees stirring, and you said you got it on the 18, so let me kind of pour some and have a look. So, I mean, I can certainly see what you think. It has that sort of creaminess to it as well. So, I mean, I would say it's probably there. I would say it's not there intentionally. I think there's perhaps a small amount of ml that occurs before we actually sulfur the wines, and that's just to make sure the primary fermentation is gone. Hopefully it's not that sort of rancid buttered popcorn that you sometimes get, but there's no oak, so I would say it's not an oak or vanillin derived sort of characteristic, but there is a creaminess to it as well. I mean, I have to go through my notes, but we do stir the tanks up periodically, and that's just to keep the lees in suspension. And there's probably some sort of those manoproteins that break down and give you that sort of creaminess and that sort of yeasty, bready, doughy kind of character. So I'm looking for it. It's not jumping out at me personally. I wouldn't smell this and say I get butter. I get a lot of floral, but I can sort of see where you go from that as well. Where the 19, I don't get that whatsoever. Very bright, a little bit more citrus, a little bit more. There's some tropical flavors in there as well, but the acidity, or the acidity rather, on the 19 is really, really bright. But that's the beauty about wine. Let me tell you this way: I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you that I personally don't get it in the wine. It's not amplified for me. That doesn't mean it's not there. The great thing about wine is you drink what you like, how you like, when you like. You should not give a crap about what I say about this wine. I could tell you this is the best wine to drink, to buy. It's great value for money. If you do not like it, don't listen to me. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, right? It's personal. Be subjective. When you're going to open a wine, you're going to drink a wine, you have to enjoy it. What you smell is what you smell. What you taste is what you taste. I'm certainly not in a position to tell you that it's not there. What I would say is that based on the glass, based on the wine, I don't get it sort of in an amplified way. It's certainly not jumping out at me like I find with some of the Chardonnays, but there is sort of a nice creaminess to there. There is sort of a doughy kind of component for me. Would I sort of say it's diacetyl rather, or the butane dione? I don't know, but great comment and great question. So I love that. I would say this though, it's bloody good to drink. I hope you enjoy it as well. So.
Alison Turco asked, how was the 18 impacted by the rain?
The question is, how does rain really impact the grapes? Firstly, the dilution factor, that's the first thing off the get-go. As the rain goes, it actually, a lot of people it goes into the soil and it gets uptaken through the roots. It's really not the case. It actually goes through the pedestal, and the berries can kind of swell. And when you add water to anything, you're diluting it, so the flavors become diluted. It changes the chemistry. The sugars go down. The other thing is those berries can burst and lead to a lot of rot. And certainly rot is not something that we want with humidity and the temperatures. That rot can turn into vinegar rot. And if we have rot, we have to manage the fruit very, very differently. I would say the 19 was really a picket when we could and wanted to. And we really were able to really express the grape in a glass, right? 19 was just that good. I'm not being flippant, but I would say we really had to coerce flavors and work really, really, really hard in the cellar to make the 18 as good as the predecessor, which was the 17, which was a phenomenal vintage. Because at the end of the day, you're only as good as your current vintage. We are we've got a few vintages under our belt, but we don't have any historical provenance of making wines for the last 100 years. So people judge us on your current wines. 18 was a tough act. We had to work really, really hard, very select picking, culling, management in the cellar, managing the rot metabolites, and making a wine that I think is it punches way above its weight class. But rain is tough. It impacts the condition of the fruit. It can lead to mildews. It can lead to bursting of berries and rot. And at the end of the day, you're getting away from those very, very small berries. You're getting berries that are a little bit more diluted and the flavors are not there. And that's a hell of a tough thing to deal with, because then you really have to coerce and extrapolate flavors and try and amplify things that are not there. And as a winemaker, I would say then the term winemaking is more applicable, because then you're really making wine. You're using every trick in your bag to try and create a wine that really sort of is as good as the 17. And then the 19, is a pleasure to work with, because the fruit is there. You do what you do, but you really just have to conserve the flavors. Then you're not a winemaker, you're more a conservator, because you're really just expressing in the glass everything that was beautiful about the vintage and the vineyard. So rain is a tough one. Rain is necessary. Without rain, the vine can shut down and not produce sugars. But too much rain, especially at that point in the growing season, is pretty tough. But again, I think our vineyard team did an incredible job managing this fruit, allowed me to make a wine that, quite honestly, I'm super proud of. It's been a while since I've tried this. I'm really excited. I can't see any other comments right now, but I hope if you're drinking this 18, you're loving it as much as I am, or enjoying it as much as I am. So, cool. Any other questions? We'll take, say, one or two, and then I'm going to tell you how you can get this wine. And Al has graciously given me the opportunity to give you a hell of a deal. So hang tight. We're going to tell you how you can get not only the 18, but you can get the 19, which hasn't even been released yet. So what other questions, Lottie?
So a couple people have asked, what's the difference between the regular labeled DNA and the LVA DNA?
That's a great question. The question is, what is the difference between the LVA Viognier and the regular Viognier? The answer is $10. Not really. So they come from two different blocks. They're harvested a little bit apart. The Viognier is always dry. The LVA has always been, up until the 19, has always been slightly sweeter. But not a hell of a lot of difference. In past, we've used a little bit of oak fermentation Viognier in with the tank ferment, so it's not always 100% tank fermented and matured. We might add 10, 15, 20% of oak kind of influenced wine in there as well. So those are sort of the fundamental differences. The Viognier does generally come from the same block. It's just pick it a little bit later, slightly riper sort of flavors. And then sometimes we use a little bit of oak fermentation kind of wine in there as well. And it's always, always, always a dry wine. We always joke that it's $10. It's really only about $3 or $4. But that's the difference between the Estate Viognier and the Lba Dna. But I would say this, when we say reserve a signature series, that is our way of communicating to you, the consumer, what we think is the best expression of that grape on that particular year. Does it mean that that's the best wine that we produce? No. If you're new to wine, right, and you are just drinking wines that are fruit forward and sweeter, you're going to love the Lba Dna Viognier. That's the wine that you're going to gravitate towards. You're really not going to appreciate the Signature Viognier, which has got more oak influence or dry. So it doesn't matter that we think the Signature Series Viognier is the best expression of that grape from our best block in that particular year. So it's our way of sort of communicating to you very simply what we think. And we're even changing that up a little bit, right? We've done reserve wines or Signature Series wines. What we're now doing is, hey folks, this is a Merlot from block 2. This is a Cab Franc from block 7. We're talking about sort of geographical, soil differences, clonal differences, density differences. We're saying that these wines are different. You decide what you think is the best wine as well. So, but those are some of the differences. I think both are incredible wines. The 2019 Viognier is being poured in the tasting room. It's beautiful. It's typical fragrance and floral. It's got acidity. It's bright. It's tank fermented. I love it. And so yeah, that's it pretty much. Let's take one more question, and then I'm going to tell you about how you can get these wines. There is a limited amount of bottles, so stay tuned. It's going to be first come, first serve. So Let's take one more question, and then we'll talk about the deal, sweetheart, and then we'll take a few more and finish up. What do you reckon?
This isn't a question, but just
a statement.
About food pairings.
Okay.
Tell you what, some people are having it with. So Virginia Wine Time is having this with mango relish and grilled chicken.
Ooh, Virginia Wine Time. I love Richard and Warren, and they are foodies as well. So chicken and a mango relish. I think that would be phenomenal, as long as the mango relish is not really sweet. But I think that's a match made in heaven. The other thing is, if you like Stilton and blue cheese, oh my god, Viognier and cheese goes incredibly well. All right, hey, so let me tell you how you can get these wines. Now, Al is gracious. He wants you to have not only the 18, but I tell you what's really lovely is the 19. So here's the thing, right? If you buy the 2-pack, and you can only get it, unfortunately, if you're a wine club member. So this is a reason to join the wine club. I'll tell you what, there's about 20 other reasons to join the wine club. I'll tell you that in a bit. But if you want to get the 18 of Governor's Cup gold medal winning wine with our 19, it's $35 for 2 bottles. That's it. That exceeds the 30% discount, and that's applicable to you if you're a gold member or a silver member. If you're not a member, you need to become a member to get these 2 bottles. But here's the catch. There's only 36 bundles available because we only have 36 bottles of the 18. It's on the website. You got to log in. You got to get it. It's $35 plus tax, no shipping. But come and fetch it. Come get a free glass of wine. Come get a free flight. Come say hi. From the incredible 18 and I think an incredible 19 vintage. And again, the question is, how do we join the wine club? Why should we join the wine club? Well, I'll tell you why. Here's the thing. It's free to join. You know, you're only committed to 6 months. Let me tell you some of the wines you're going to get in the next 6 months. Al, if you're online, you came into the cellar today and you drank the Merlot Reserve, the Cab Franc Reserve, the Heritage, the Cab, the Merlot exclusive Wine Club wine, the Wine Club exclusive Cab Franc Block 2, and the Wine Club exclusive Block 7. And by the way, apologies to Cindy. It's all my fault that he tried everything. He was gracious and he did me a solid. But I'll jump on there and tell them what incredible wines they're getting. You're getting Petit Verdot, you're getting Chardonnay, you're getting Rosé, you're getting a 3-year aged Bordeaux blend, 3-year aged Cab. We've got incredible Cabs and Cab Francs. It's a 6-month commitment at minimum, but you're going to stay in much longer. If you're a gold member, you get 25% off all our wines. If you're a silver, you get 20%. And that's it. You get events that you get first dibs at. And at the end of the day, we're making wines just for you. These are my experimental projects. Our kind of crazy, out there, push the envelope of quality on there. And they're incredible wines coming your way as well. Come and visit us. You know, Monday through Friday, get a free glass of wine. Pick your wines up. We'll hold it for you for a whole year. It's no problem. You can't get there right now. Come get it when you can. You know, no harm, no foul. But if you love wine, if you love Virginia wine, and I know you have options, let me be this. I would be happy if you were wine club members and joined other wine clubs. You know, Virginia wineries need your support, as do restaurants, cideries, breweries, and distilleries. But if you join Keswick's, you're joining a community, a family, and you're getting some incredible wines, and I'll push it that way as well. So $35, 2 bottles, 18 and 19 LVA Viognier. It's a bigger discount than you would get, but you've got to be in the wine club. It's first come, first serve. So jump on that and you know, take advantage of that. Next week, by the way, we're talking about the 2017 Trevelyan. I'm excited. It's a blend of 2 Chardonnays, 2 Viognier, Traminette, Verdeo, Vidal. Really excited to sort of jump into that wine after what has been almost 2 years in the bottle. And then hopefully we'll have some news about the next bundle. Bundle's exciting because we have some options. Like I said, the Chardonnay, the Rosé, the Petit Verdot, the Merlot Reserve, the Cab Franc Reserve, the Heritage, the Cab Sav Block 7 from 2017. And then we also have a killer dessert wine. We are, yes folks, we are making nectar again. And unlike previous years of Viognier, this is Petit Manseng. This is our first dessert wine for Petit Manseng. We bottle it on Friday, and I'm super pumped to be able to share that with you. One thing, totally off topic, if they are watching and they might be in the BVI, I want to say happy 7th wedding anniversary to Mark and Carrie. I was honored to officiate their wedding. It's their 7-year anniversary. They're in the BVI. Mark is one of my oldest and dearest friends from South Africa. Carrie was our tasting room manager for a few years. They met, Kath and I introduced them. They got married. They got 2 beautiful kids. But hey guys, happy anniversary. Lots of love from my family to yours. I hope you're having an incredible day. So let's take 1 or 2 more questions. Let's finish up with a great thought for the day, and then let's go ahead and just be good, right? So what else do we have, sweetie?
So for non-members, they can get the 2018 of what's left, but with the regular discounts, they just can't get the pack with 2019.
Gotcha. Yeah. So if you only wanted the 18, you could get it, and if you're a non-wine club member, you can get it for 10% discount. If you're a silver, it's 5% over and above, so that takes you to 25. If you're a gold, you get 30. But what I would suggest is take advantage of the 2-pack. You know why? Because this is a great time to compare 18 to 19. You'll see 18 actually doesn't give up a lot. You get a further discount. So really take advantage of the 2 bottles. You deserve it. You need it. You know, now that kids are going back to school, moms, you deserve it. You've been awesome, you know, homeschooling and looking after everybody as well. So but yeah, if you wanted to get the 18 on its own, it's 5% over and above your normal discount, 10% if you're not a wine club member. But we'd love for you to join our incredible wine club.
And Kevin asked, when will the 2019 be officially released?
Kevin Northfleet up in PA. Kevin and Drew, I hope you're doing well. Sending you lots of love. We don't know. So we are pouring the Viognier. We are almost out of the Lba Dna Viognier, so I would imagine the 19 will be released pretty soon. A beautiful wine as we kind of exit summer and go into fall. I don't know officially. Sarah or Karen, if you're on online tonight, maybe you can answer that question. But I would say it's probably pretty soon. It's been in the bottle for a few months. It's drinking beautifully, as you can see. Well, don't as you can see, but if you believe me, the 19 is drinking beautifully. It is dry. I love the fact that it's dry. I think you're going to love it as well. But I would imagine in the very near future, the 2019 is going to come onto the tasting list.
And then Frank Morgan. He says, we've talked in previous weeks about the masses of younger consumers and consumers in general opting for more lighter alcoholic beverages like flavored hard seltzers.
Seltzers and White Claw.
How can Keswick capture some of that?
Ooh, you know, Frank the Tank. Frank Morgan and his lovely family. Hope you're doing well. Frank has an incredible blog, Drink What You Like, by the way. A big supporter and advocate of Virginia wine, so I also want to say thank you. And to Paul and Warren from Virginia Wine Time for everything they do. We're very, very sort of grateful and appreciative of everything that. The question is, how do we capture a younger audience? Because a lot of people are looking at canned wine or seltzers, anything like that. So
yes, about like a piquette.
Yeah, the pet nats, the Pétillant Naturel, that kind of thing. Let me see.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Piquette?
All right. How do we attract younger people? That's a great question. How do we do it? I think first and foremost, Frank, we demystify wine. We make wine less pretentious, less stuffy, less snobby, and less sort of scary. Wine to me is bloody scary. Fancy words and sommeliers telling you how you enjoy wine. Let's think of it this way. Wine is fermentable grape juice. Let's talking words that get people excited. Let's make wine accessible, and let's over-deliver in terms of price. Will Keswick make White Claw seltzers, sparkling wines in a can right now? Probably in the short term, I would say kind of not. So yeah, Piquette wines are sort of low alcohol wines, made for immediate consumption. I would love to sort of do Beaujolais style. I think we're going to do some carbonic maceration a little bit with some Chambourcin this year. But at the end of the day, Frank, I would say this, that our number one goal is to be true to our vineyard. You know, we have to put forth our character in a glass of wine. I would say that, you know, trends are just that, they're trends. You know, what's possible now or positive now might not be down the line. And if we're going to chase that, what we're going to do, we're going to sacrifice our very identity. But what we can do is still create wines that sort of convey us in a glass. Serious, passionate, made with love, made with attention, layered, complex, age-worthy, drinkable, whatever that might be. But we can do it in a way that's fun. We can demystify it. we can attract younger drinkers and say, you know what, have fun with wine, drink it on its own, pair it with crazy things. I would say I'm a little bit sort of hesitant to sort of follow trends. I'd rather be a trendsetter in certain ways. I get the low alcohol, and we're sort of focusing a little bit on picking fresher, picking greener, not looking for 14-15% alcohols anymore. Our wines are actually a little bit more on the moderate side, sort of the 12.5 to 13.5, but I still think they communicate Keswick in a glass. But I think the way we can attract younger is say, listen, drink Virginia wine, drink wine. Let's demystify it. Let's make it fun. Let's sort of deconstruct the very thing that makes it difficult to kind of get into. And let's make it accessible. Let's not price it at $200 a bottle. Let's price it at $30 and give them a $50 value as well. But it's going to take time. Education, it's a lifestyle thing. It's going to take some work. But yeah, great question. It's always something we think about. How do we meet new people? How do we put our wines in different glasses? How do we attract what is going to be the next 40, 50 years of drinking in America? If you have any insight, I'd love to hear it. And if that means lower alcohol, fresher, more vibrant wines, perhaps that's something we should look at. But again, Frank and Richard and Warren, just want to say how much I respect you guys and how much we appreciate what you do for our industry and what you've done for us, and value your friendship on top of everything else. So God bless and love to your family. So cool. Let's take one more question. We've always got time for one more. So hey, sweetie, Kat's looking at me like, I don't have one more question left. So,
sorry, I just stand up with the baby.
That's okay. Kat's a superstar.
Someone asked to see Erica asked to see Alakai. So that I can
okay. All right. So the question is, can we see Alakai? Of course you can. Of course you can. We're always happy to show off our
future of wine drinking.
Our little guy. Not so little guy. Healthy, 2 months today. Cannot believe that this little guy is 2 months today. He's not really looking. Always looking at mama.
He's looking at the wine.
Oh, he's looking at the wine. He's got good taste. But there's Alakai. Alakai Reese. He is loud. He doesn't sleep much. He's keeping mommy up. Mommy has done an incredible job looking after him. He's a big guy. He's beautiful. He's amazing. We're very, very gracious and happy and blessed to have him. And he doesn't know, but he'll be working in the vineyards when he's 8 years old. That's for damn sure. So there's Alakai. All right. So and thank you for that, by the way. We appreciate people asking about our family and reaching out. It's always nice to hear that and know. So let's finish up, shall we? And for that we need a glass of wine. So firstly, as always, we want to say thank you. Thank you for your support and your love and your affection, and for the fact that you support us. I know the world is scary and crazy and it's uncertain. Wine is not a necessity. It's not a luxury. It is a luxury, sometimes a necessity. But we appreciate the fact that you support Keswick. Especially when you have so many other options. Drink Virginia. Love Virginia. And we appreciate that. So obviously my family, which is Kath and Alakai and Little Mouse and Aria, and obviously our family, which is Keswick, Alan, Cindy, Lachelle, Allison, Brian, and Chris, and everyone who works there, our extended and our staff, our family. We all appreciate your patronage. We all appreciate your support. We value what you do for us, and it's we recognize how lovely you guys have been. Secondly, I just want to say, what an incredible staff, what an incredible team we have. I want to make sure that we recognize those people who are not front and center. I get a lot of credit that's really not deserved. I think I'm in front of the camera just because I have an accent. It's not because I'm good looking, but there's people in the background. My wife is one of them. People in there that are doing an incredible job. We're working really hard to make sure that your visit is safe and educational and wonderful. The Vineyard team that toils hard in days where it's 95 degrees and humid. All credit to them for producing that. And Al and Cindy, who've done an incredible job keeping this place opening and have supported us. So again, I should say thank you to them as well. So all we can do is be the best we can be. right? You know, take each day as it comes. Be grateful for that we have. You know, tell people we love them. Tell people we appreciate them. So, love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate my family. Appreciate my staff. Appreciate working with everybody. And I hope you've loved these wines, because I do too. So, cheers. God bless. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll see you in 6 days and 23 hours, or 22 hours and 51 minutes. I'm excited about the Tripoli White. I'm excited about announcing the September bundle. We've got some incredible options. If you'd like to see certain wines, let us know. And again, just to recap, $35 for the bundle. In the wine club, silver or gold, doesn't matter. You get $35. You get an incredible 18, our Governor's Cup gold medal winning Lba Dna Viognier. You get the 19, which is phenomenal. And if you're not in the wine club and you want to get the 18 on its own, we're going to give you 10%. Join the wine club. Be a part of our family. And again, we appreciate every one of you. I enjoy these. I love these, and I just want to say thank you. So have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Have a wonderful evening, and I'm looking forward to sort of climbing into these wines for the next hour or two. So God bless all of you. Be safe, be kind, and I will see you in just a few short days. All right. Love you guys.